Denmark, a small island kingdom in the north. Pioneer of modern technology, and home to individualists seeking to fulfill their dream of a simple life on the islands. A country with many faces and a history that dates back to the Viking era. Our route leads along the Danish Baltic coast, from Møn through the South Finn archipelago up to Jutland, and finally to the capital, Copenhagen. Møns Klint, a gigantic chalk cliff, is a landmark of the island Møn. "70 million years ago, chalk used to form the seabed. Traces of life from those times are hidden here. During the last ice age, the ice masses pushed the chalk sediment to the surface. Buried in the chalk, you can still find the fossilized remains of plants and animals. The fossils are sought after collector's items. Seimar Sørensen is one of the people who scour the beach for them.
There is an old Danish saying, if you set out to collect things in nature, you may only take as much as you can fit into your hat.
Already as a child, Seimar collected anything she found on the beach. She has an eye for treasures hidden in the sand.
I found a little sea urchin stuck to a lump of flint. You can identify it by its distinctive patterns here.
Where today the white cliffs rise up out of the ground, a tropical 200-metre deep sea covered the Earth 70 million years ago. Huge octopuses and swimming dinosaurs lived here. When they died, the creatures sank to the chalk sea bed. It is here that their remains became preserved until today.
Fossils are much more than just stones. They are relics from the past. They tell us the story of creatures that lived here a long time ago. I think that is incredibly fascinating.
From the chalk cliffs on Møn, the journey takes us southwest. The route leads from Falster to Rødby. Denmark boasts over 7,000 kilometres of coastline along the North and Baltic Seas. It is the habitat of almost 400 species of birds and a new source of energy for humans. In the sea by Rødby, one of the world's largest wind farms is being built. Offshore, wind power generation in the sea. The sea power delivers a freight of around 1,000 tons to the concrete foundations. 3 rotor blades are to be mounted in the next 16 hours, weather permitting. The team works day and night. But when the wind speed exceeds 7 meters per second, it is too dangerous to use the crane, and they must wait until the storm subsides. The sea power brings the pipes of the tower to the platform. where they are then bolted to the base. It takes only 8 hours for the wind turbine to be mounted. The most delicate moment is when the 60-ton rotor is attached in painstaking precision to the nacelle. As soon as the wind turbine is installed, a group of men arrives to bring it to life. One of them is Kent Larsen.
I am a qualified electrician and one of the people responsible for activating the wind farm. Once the turbines have been assembled, we connect it to the electricity network.
At 7 o'clock, Kent and his colleagues drive to the wind farm to begin their shift. A speedboat takes them to their lonely workplace in the Baltic Sea. For safety reasons, the men always work in teams of 2. Kent and his colleague Bjarne need good sea legs and a head for heights for their job 70 meters above the ground. But in return, the view from up here over the wind farm is spectacular.
We have 90 wind turbines. If the farm runs at maximum, it can supply energy to 250,000 households. That means we are able to provide a pretty big city with energy. I think that's great.
But it isn't time yet. Before turning it on, Bjarne and Kent first check to see if any faults have crept into the electric circuits. Around 10 o'clock, it's time for a second breakfast, up high on the nacelle.
Working here is really quite an experience. I like nature, the water, and of course the great view.
Finally, Kent unlocks the connection between the turbine and the 33,000 volt cable. Today, Denmark covers 20% of its energy needs with wind energy. When Kent and Bjarne return to the mainland, they pass the power substation. Here, access is denied. They are only allowed to enter when the system fails. From here, the energy from the wind farm is transmitted via an underwater cable to the customers on the mainland. Nowhere in Denmark is more than 52 kilometers away from the sea, so it's no surprise that the Danish prefer to spend their free time close to the water. A fish farm by the sea. The Baltic Sea is the habitat and source of income of its coastal dwellers. The Nazca Fjord. This is one of Denmark's last mailboats. The Vesta has been in service for over 86 years. She runs between the harbour city Igerscore and the islands in the fjord of the same name. Otto Paludan is her captain. Thanks to him, the Vesta still sails through the fjord, day after day.
If the Vesta was a human being, she would be a real lady, no doubt about it. Elegant in shape and beautiful in her own way, but also a little difficult to steer. She doesn't always do as is asked of her.
Set in her ways as the old lady might be, it doesn't matter. There are some things people have plenty of here: time and patience. For the summer visitors on Älvbyn, the arrival of the mailboat is the highlight of their day.
The people from Älvbyn already wait at the pier for the mailboat to arrive, and then we catch up with the latest news. Maybe something exciting happened in their lives, or I tell them what's new in Nazca.
On her daily route through the fjord, the Vesta calls at 4 islands. She was built as a car ferry in 1924 and could carry up to 2 passenger vehicles. Until 1931, she ran a regular passenger service. Then she was discharged from duty and promoted to a mailboat. Each morning, Otto Paludan picks up letters and newspapers from the post office in Nazca. As the Danish post has to save money, it is uncertain how long the Vesta will still deliver the mail. And Otto can't earn a living by being a mailboat captain alone. So he tops up his salary by organising guided tours for tourists and working at the Nazca Nature Reserve. His daily mailboat tour begins at 9 o'clock in the harbour of Nazca. He'll be out and about for a good 4 hours in the fjord. The Vesta is heading for the island Ennerhøj. It was the home of Arctic explorer Peter Freuchen, who bought the 100-hectare island in 1926. In the 1930s, he hid refugees from Germany here and helped them escape to Sweden. Today, the island is a nature reserve.
I mainly deliver mail to the islands, but there are also some other small duties. Sometimes I bring water or other materials and tools to the islands. But the main thing are still letters and parcels.
2 families still live on Ennerhøj, at least temporarily. They don't need a mailbox. Otto Paludan delivers the letters in person.
Hej, så er der post. Tak skal du have. Nå, det er elregningen. Ja, det bliver nok dyrt at pege.
Otto and his trusted Vesta head home to Nazca. And with such care and attention, the old lady will surely make it to her 100th birthday. From there, the journey continues across the island Langeland to Avernakø. Bridges and ferries connect the islands in the Danish Baltic Sea. On the island of Avernakø, Gitte Sørensen lives with her herd of goats. Goats are said to be curious, smart, picky, and freedom-loving. They have many human character traits. Goats were one of the first domestic animals, and they have a very distinctive social behaviour. the herd subordinates to the most experienced goat. They can be very trusting towards humans, but there is one thing you can't expect from them: obedience. They refuse with great consistency.
Jeg elsker mine geder, og det gør jeg mest af alt, fordi de
I love my goats. What I like about them is that it's a small community on this meadow with its very own hierarchy.
Den mark, hvor gederne går, og hvor de har deres eget hierarki. Og
it's a separate little world, and it's great being a part of it.
Det er det mest afslappende, jeg kan udsætte mig selv for.
Gitte has been living on the island for 8 years now.
Jeg kom til Avernakø, fordi
I came to Avernakø because I wanted to change my life.
Og der var et
I'm a trained nurse, and there was a job opening on the island. And after 3 years, I gave up my profession as a nurse and started goat keeping.
Counting Gitte, the island has a total of 101 residents. And of course, everybody knows everybody. As a newcomer, Gitte Sørensen was very surprised by the islanders' readiness to help each other. Her neighbour Helle wouldn't think twice about coming over with her tractor when Gitte needs help.
My friendship with Helle began right after my arrival on Avernakø. We're really good friends. She's a very important part of my life here.
Hun er en meget, meget vigtig del af alt, hvad jeg gør.
Next up on the agenda today is foot care for the goats. The horn of the goat's hoof grows back very quickly. As a result, the hooves must be trimmed every 2 to 3 months. It takes 2 people to get the job done. After the pedicure, the goats are brought to a new meadow. But Gitte Sørensen's goats are not her cuddly toys. As cosy a life they may have with her while it lasts, in the end, none of them escape the slaughterer. From their fur and horns, Gitte makes shoes and jewellery. She sells the goat meat. In Denmark, it is a delicacy. The news about her goats has even spread to the royal court.
What I'm particularly proud of is that the cook of the Crown Prince called to order goat meat from me. The Crown Prince tasted it and said that he really loved it.
Det var jeg stolt af.
To make a living on the island, goat breeding alone isn't enough. Gitte has some other jobs as well. She is harbour master and rents rooms to tourists. The locals quickly accepted Gitte. She is a breath of fresh air in the small island community. Avernakø, a small world, but big enough to start a new life here.
Det en gammel drøm om at prøve at bo på en ø.
It was an old dream of mine to live on an island and to realize my ideas.
Mine egne tanker og idéer om at drive virksomhed selv.
Both dreams have come true.
Det lykkes begge dele at få opfyldt de drømme.
So I can truly say that I'm happy.
I dag, hvor jeg kan sige, at jeg er lykkelig.
When the sun sets over the islands, the so-called Danish South Sea lives up to its name. From Avernakø, the route leads to Svendborg, from where we continue to the capital of the island, Fyn, Odense. For a long time now, the people on the coast live off what the sea provides. In the south of Finn, a man is always on the lookout for new ideas for his kitchen.
I use 3 kinds of algae with 3 flavor variants. The bitter sour seaweed, the sweet sugar algae, and the bladderwrack can be chopped up and used as salty spice for fish dishes.
Klaus Holm is a top-class chef with the courage to experiment. Seaweed is still unusual on Danish menus. In Svendborg, Klaus Holm runs a luxury catering business with his wife Anna. Among the upper-class community on Finn, it is considered chic to order a catering service for celebrations. And of course, Klaus Holm's clients expect something special. His specialty is to combine old classics with something new. Crabs with seaweed paste, for example. This doesn't only look good, but it also makes for a taste bud adventure.
If you put a piece of algae on your tongue, here in the middle, you get the sensation of something sour, something sweet, something salty and something strong. We call that the umami stimulant. It's a really exciting taste.
Umami is the term for the so-called fifth taste and can be translated as hearty. A Japanese scientist discovered this special taste in 1908. The algae that Klaus needs for his cooking grows right on his doorstep, in the shallow waters near the shore.
As a cook, I have my secrets, of course, and I don't reveal my favorite spots. But here's a tip. When you harvest algae, you can simply put them in tap water to keep them fresh. If you can't do that, then you should dry them.
Dried algae spices up every coating. It tastes salty, like the sea.
Being a cook is my life. I love it. It keeps me going. My kitchen is my universe. It's here that I learn, where I make mistakes, and where I get back on my feet. I work at improving here. My kitchen is my everything. What we eat is a part of us. We do our best so that taste and look cohere. People love pretty things.
We continue northwards from Svendborg to Odense. Finn is Denmark's third largest island, a stretch of land that the squires had divided up amongst themselves. Hidden in the forest lies the castle Igerscore. A moated castle built on so many oak stakes that the legend says a whole forest had to be cut down. Igerscore is one of Europe's best preserved moated castles. In the creeks and rivers of Finn lives a fish whose mysterious life fascinates fishermen and scientists alike. Biologist Linda Bollerup and her colleagues are keen to find out more about it. It normally lives in the sea, but during mating season it travels upstream. And right here, Linda is waiting for it. The sea trout's journey ends in Linda's net, luckily only for research purposes. Linda Bollerup is researching the secrets of this special fish that lives in saltwater as well as in freshwater sea.
We make sure that the population of sea trouts recovers in the rivers. They grow up in these streams and swim out into the sea to feed. After a few years, they return to the rivers to breed.
The fish are caught with an electric probe that paralyzes them for a few seconds. Then they are trapped easily without getting hurt.
We catch the parent fish in the fall to strip them, which means we extract eggs and semen to construct an artificial insemination. After that, we release them back into the river.
Scientists have discovered that sea trout can smell the water of their home river, and with their sense of smell, they find their way back. But fewer and fewer rivers remain untouched by man nowadays. That is why the sea trout offspring on Finn is brought up by artificial insemination. This fish farm in Odense is Linda's place of work. In the small basins, millions of little sea trout are bred to repopulate the rivers. It's a huge fish nursery, and Linda is something like a foster mother for the little sea trout. These are 6 months old and only 7 centimeters long.
We have a survival rate of 75%. We want to lose as few fish as possible. It doesn't take much to stress them. If you move your hand over the basin, it is enough to get them panicked.
For about 1.5 years, the sea trout stay at the breeding station. Then they are strong enough to survive in the wild. Linda brings them back to the river, where their parents originated from. From now on, the little ones are on their own.
When we set free juvenile fish and they swim off, it makes me very happy. They have a good life here at the breeding station, but they belong in nature. That's the whole point of our work.
Through the Odense Fjord, the young sea trout swim into the Baltic Sea, until they return after about 2 years for spawning. From Odense, the trip continues north to Greenå. Halfway lies the city of Aarhus, with Denmark's largest container port. Rotor blades for wind turbines are waiting for their transport. On a sandbank off the shore of Ebeltoft, a stranded ship. The sea will eat away at it, piece by piece. The days of the ships that moor in the harbour of Greenå are already numbered as well. The shipbreaking yard Fornis in Greenå is Europe's biggest scrapyard for ships. It's the final destination for decommissioned cargo ships and trawlers. And all this scrap belongs to him. Peter Niemann, wrecker of Greenå, master of life and death for all ships that moor here.
Wrecking ships is similar to wrecking cars. We dismantle the ships in individual parts that can be reused. That's our trade. The rest is thrown on the scrap heap.
Peter Niemann guts the ships until only an empty shell is left. Four times a year, wrecks are brought ashore. That's Samson's job. A floating crane with a height of 95 meters.
Normally, I am not nervous, but on such a day I have to be everywhere. When the crane is here, nothing should go wrong.
It is hardly surprising that Peter is so agitated. The crane Samson costs several 10,000 euros a day. For the ships that he brings ashore, there is no way back. Their journey ends right here, in Greenå harbour. Peter sells the ship scrap to China or Turkey.
Ships are objects, and the work has to be done. I've wrecked about 1,300 ships until now. If I felt sorry for them, I wouldn't work here.
Peter earns his money with the still functioning parts of the ship. All neatly sorted, in huge storehouses, are motors, winches, electronics. Everything that is left from a ship, and can be turned into money.
I have a very hard-working lady in the office who registers the small pieces. I also have a very special computer. Nobody can steal this one, and it remembers everything. Here, in my head.
Selling a used diesel engine with a horsepower of 1,000 can still bring in 50,000 euros. And that's how some of Peter Niemann's ship parts are granted a second life.
That's the challenge. I never know what to expect when I come to work in the morning. I never know if I will get a customer who wants to buy something for 10 Danish krones or 500,000. That's why each day is so exciting.
og det er det, der gør den spændende.
From Greenå, we head towards Samsø in the south. Passing islands that look like emeralds shimmering in the sea. On Samsø, the annual music festival is currently taking place. It resembles a city of tents from Roman times. On the west coast of Zealand, in the harbour of Rødsand, Pia Arendst has made herself a home in this wooden house. For more than 100 years, the old fisherman's cabin has its place here at the harbour. That's what Pia likes about her house. She appreciates things that have a story to tell. At the beach, she looks for driftwood to carve into figures.
I often search for something very specific. If I've seen a bird, a seagull or a cormorant somewhere, I get an idea and look for a piece that already has similarities with this bird. Sometimes I'm lucky and I find things where you can spot the figure right away. Then it only takes 2 minutes and it's finished. Others take me many hours.
The pieces of driftwood have travelled a long way. Pia has also visited her fair share of foreign countries in her life, but she has always returned to Denmark's coast. The beach of Rødsand is a magical place for Pia, which lays the world at her feet.
I look for driftwood or for amber. I look for anything that I can use and take it home with me.
In the small house at the harbour, Pia adds the finishing touches to her figures. Coastal birds are her favourite motifs. In just a few strokes, Pia transforms the driftwood into birds and mythical creatures from the sea. Each day, the sea washes up new driftwood on the beach of Rødsand, an endless supply for Pia Arendst.
I'm out there every day. I watch the sunset almost every evening. I can't live without the sea. It means everything to me.
The last leg of the journey takes us from Rødsand over Helsinki to the Danish capital, Copenhagen. At the Øresund, only 4 kilometers separate Denmark from Sweden. In Helsinki lies the Castle Kornborg. built in a strategic position on a spit of land in the northernmost part of Denmark. It was built as a fortress to take a toll from passing ships. Today, bygone times show their traces on the huge walls. Stonemasons of the castle are restoring the facade of Kornborg. Especially the side facing the sea has to be constantly renovated.
And start.
Hej, kan jeg hjælpe med noget?
Ja, Sten er klar.
Among the workers is a young woman. Karin Hansen wants to become a stonemason on Kornborg. Her two teachers, Jakob and René, let her in on all the tricks of the art. The workshop for the stonemasons is right behind the castle. Karin is the first woman to start an apprenticeship as a stonemason at Kornborg. She has already proven that she can handle hard work. Now she still has to learn about the many intricacies of the trade from her teacher Jakob.
I want to become a stonemason because I like working with my hands. But I also want to work creatively. Stonemasonry is just the right mixture of those two things.
Jakob shows Karin how to measure up a plaster cast. The cast serves as a model, an exact copy of the old stone sculpture.
It's my dream to become really good and make figures myself for the castle. In my opinion, it is the greatest honor a stonemason could possibly get.
In 1585, the Renaissance Castle Kornborg was completed. Dutch stonemasons created the very elaborate sandstone ornaments. In their workshop, the stonemasons make copies of the weathered figures and ornaments true to the originals.
You can compare the work in the castle with taking care of an old and dear family member. An old lady you have to care for. It is like a close relative of whom you grow a bit fonder every day.
Kornborg Castle became famous as Shakespeare made it the setting of his tragedy about Prince Hamlet. Karin is excited about fitting a stone that she has worked on. Working as a stonemason requires a lot of strength and is physically exhausting, a typical man's job.
All my colleagues are men. It's fun and a cool working environment. My colleagues are really nice. It's not a rough environment like on a building site, and the atmosphere is very pleasant.
A female stonemason. It's a first in the 400-year history of Kornborg Castle. Along the coast, our route continues towards Copenhagen. The meadows of Saltholm get flooded regularly by the sea. Copenhagen, the Danish capital. In the middle of the city, the castle Amalienborg, where the royal family lives. The populace enjoy themselves at the Tivoli, one of the world's oldest amusement parks. Another attraction is situated in the harbour basin of Copenhagen. The harbour pool, a summer retreat for stressed city dwellers. Lifeguard Christina Ingevald is in charge of the bathers' safety. For her job, she often has to dive to the bottom of the pool. It is 7 meters deep. Christina is a trained diver, and so it is her job to search the ground of the harbour basin, as a sort of a cleaning commando. The most peculiar things have been found at the bottom of the harbour pool.
The harbour pool is not a closed swimming pool. It's open at the bottom. That's why sometimes even shopping carts and bikes are washed up by the current. Some people simply throw that into the water when they are drunk. They don't think about what they're doing.
But that doesn't change anything about the good water quality.
For me, it's a summer holiday job. I only do this 3 months a year. The summer isn't very much longer than that, and then the weather doesn't permit swimming.
When Christina hoists the red and yellow flag, the swimmers know the pool is under supervision. In summer, the pool is a popular gathering spot in Copenhagen. And the best thing about it, there is no entrance fee.
I like working as a lifeguard because I can be outside all day long, no matter the weather. It's important work to make sure that the bathers have a safe summer.
Even if the Danish summer is short, being a lifeguard at the harbour pool is a pretty cool job. So it is not surprising that some people associate it with a famous American TV show.
We often hear people call, but that is definitely not it. I don't identify myself with Baywatch at all. We simply do a good job here and make sure it's safe at the harbour pool.
Copenhagen is the economic and cultural centre of Denmark, a small metropolis with only 500,000 citizens. Denmark is a small country with only 5.5 million inhabitants. the Danish are considered to be the happiest people in the world. Cosmopolitan and still pleasantly provincial. European and Scandinavian at the same time. From Copenhagen, it is only a short trip over the Øresund bridge to Sweden, the next leg of our journey along the coast of the Baltic Sea.